Welcome, everyone. I'm Journey Hencart, and I'm so excited to welcome our guest speaker for tonight. Allie is someone that I met at a retreat recently, and right away just felt like she is someone that I wanted to get to know. And she's well, I'll just say to you, Allie, you're so warm, you're so inviting, you have this beautiful confidence about you. And the more I get to know you, the more I want to learn from you. So I'm so excited to welcome you tonight, for all of us to get to learn from you. And everyone, feel free to use the chat. If there's something that stands out to you, feel free to write it in there. It just kind of emphasizes for everyone to be able to feel like we're having a conversation. And if you have any questions, you can write them in there. And if there's time, she can get to them at the end. But I am so excited to turn it over to you, Allie. So welcome.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, as you were talking, I felt myself tear up. I'm just first of all, so grateful to be here with everybody. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Allie Tymo, and I am a branding strategist and energetic embodiment coach. So while we're going to be talking about human design is not like the thing that I do, it's a part of everything that I do. And I think that this is a really important kind of way to use human design, is that it's not like the be all end all. It's not like the answer to everything, but when you can use it as a tool to really help enrich your life and leverage your energy so you understand yourself better, then that's the sweet spot. I always say that human design is just a big permission slip to be exactly who you are. So I'm so curious, does everybody know about human design? Where are we at? A little bit. Cool. Yes, a couple of you, I know you've had private conversations about human design. Okay, so human design is basically a mixture of a few different modalities. So it weaves in astrology, but it also weaves in the chakra system and the I Ching system, Kabbalah, quantum physics, all of these things all brought into one. So it's based off of just your birthday, time, place. So you can just Google human design chart and find your human design chart. And like I said, it's one of the biggest permission slips to be exactly who you are. So often we will look at somebody else who we look up to or we admire or we're inspired by, and then we think I just wish I were more like that, or we fall into that game of comparison. And what human design does is highlight exactly what your strengths are and exactly how to lean into your own magic. So when I first discovered human design, it was 2018, and I had just had my second child, and I was just had my kids, was at home with them all the time, trying to build my business. And I was I am so overwhelmed and I am so ridden with anxiety. And I keep hearing this thing about human design. And at first I disregarded it because I was oh, I've done all the personality tests and it's cool information, but none of those things ever really changed my life. And when I learned more about human design, I was I need to hire somebody who's going to help me actually integrate this in my life. And if I actually do something with it, what could change? Everything changed. My business that I was trying to grow, that felt this uphill battle, and I was doing all of the right things, but not seeing any of the results and making them mean something about me. I realized that I wasn't honoring myself. I wasn't honoring my unique flow. I was trying to be into a box of what I thought a good business owner should do, seeing what other people were doing and trying to do what they're doing. So for those of you who don't know, and maybe if you do, and you guys are already saying what your types are in the chat, which is so good. But so there are 5 different types in human design. So first you have the generator type, pure generator. What really kind of defines them as a generator is their sacral energy center is defined, which is your sacral energy center is that life force energy. And manifesting generators also have that defined sacral. So generator, manifesting generator. So manifesting generators are kind of similar to generators, but they do have their own different flavor. So their own different thing about them. But both of those two types, the main thing is that like, if you are lit up, if you're saying yes to the things that light you up, you have just unlimited energy to do what you're meant to do. What causes that, like, I don't know, that sticky point is when you're saying yes to things that are actually no's. And then for a manifesting generator, generally, like, manifesting generators are really multi-passionate. They love to shortcut. Like, if you'll find like a efficient way to get something done, or if you can skip a step and like just go right over there, like their ability to manifest can be really, really quick. So those are those two. And then you have the projectors. So I'm a projector who is trying to operate in a world of generators, because generators make up like 70% of the population. And I was trying to go like a generator. I don't have that defined sacral. I don't have that defined like life force energy. So my energy is more limited in that way. And I want to be careful even with the language that I'm using, because for someone who's a projector or even someone who's a non-energy type, then you can tell yourself the story that like you can't do as much because you have less energy. And that's not true. The thing with human design is that there's literally nothing that should limit you. It should only ever expand you. So generators are not better than projectors. Projectors aren't better than other types. Like, it doesn't work like that. We all like are in this beautiful little ecosystem where we get to really shine in our unique genius and just like be fucking amazing at it. So projectors definitely need a lot more rest. Projectors are known as like generally like old souls. We have the ability to really see people really, really deeply. The kind of shadow side of that is like projectors are not so good at seeing ourselves. So I'm like, I can have a conversation with someone and I'm like, I know all the stuff going on. And then I'm like, I need to talk to someone about me. Like, what's going on here? Because I cannot see it as clearly at all. And then the other type, there's two more, the manifestors. We have a couple. Well, I know Courtney's a manifester. I think maybe someone else is a manifester. Manifestors are one of like even more rare than what projectors would be. I think they're only like 7% of the population. So manifestors are really like the leaders, like thought leaders. And this can be tricky with manifestors too, is that they'll like have all these ideas, but they won't necessarily want to see the ideas out. Like, they don't want to do the things, but they want to be like lead the conversation and be like, okay, generators, manifesting generators, like, let's go do this thing. So really like thriving in collaboration. Manifestors have a little like more energy, I would say, than projectors, but they kind of function in these like, they can really like go and get a lot done, but then they need the rest period. Go get a lot done. It's like working in spurts is more beneficial for a manifester. And then this is like really kind of broad information, and then you have reflectors that are like less than 1% of the world, which is like the absolute unicorn. I've only met just like a couple of reflectors in my whole life. And the thing that defines a reflector. So has everybody looked at their human design chart before? No. Okay, cool. Am I able to like share my screen? Okay.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Perfect. I'll just try that because it's going to be so much easier if you can actually have a visual. Otherwise, it just like will make way less sense. Okay, so this is my human design chart. So your type is just like one little thing about you. So what I was saying about reflectors is that reflectors would have all of these symbols, which are your energy centers, undefined. So they would be white. And when your energy centers are undefined, it means that you're absorbing from your environment, from other people. It's not your own consistent energy. So this is where you're most likely to like have a lot of conditioning, which sounds bad, but there's so much wisdom in these places. So your type is just one thing, but type does not define you. So if human design is a system about individuality, if you're 1 out of 5, that's not very individualized. You're just 1 out of 5. Like saying, oh, well, I'm a manifesting generator. That's great. And that only tells you one piece of the story, so to speak. And you can have 2 generators next to each other, but they are operating in a completely different way because there's so many other layers to your human design. And when you can kind of learn the basics, integrate the basics, it will change your life. But then you can go even deeper and kind of understand more of these, I don't know, fun places to play in your human design. So before I move to the energy center, so that just covers like type. The main things, like when I'm talking about the basics, is that so you have your type and you have your strategy. So your strategy is really like, I mean, it's basically self-explanatory in the way that it's like your strategy and like how you're meant to operate in the world. So my strategy as a projector is to be invited. So where this has shown up in my life, where I notice like my energy, I don't have that defined sacral. So my energy is limited and I don't like wasting my energy, but I see things. And so in the past, I used to just see things and then I would say things and it would not be received very well. I need to wait to be invited to share my insight and like all the things that I see. Otherwise, I'm just wasting my energy. And then I'm in my not self theme, which is feeling bitter and feeling resentful. So that's fun. So being invited is key. And for manifestors, your authority is to just go and initiate, like manifest. And this is the thing, is that the world and society tells us all that we should all go and just initiate and go do the thing. But manifestors are the only type that can do that, where like they don't need to wait for permission. But their whole lives they've been told to ask for permission because their energy is too much. So with manifestors, it's like you're too much, fit in this box, and they can experience a lot of conditioning that way. But where they can run into problems is that other people want to know what's going on. So if a manifestor is just like, I have this idea, I'm going to go run with it. The key point is to like inform, like, I'm going to go do this thing. And then you go do it. You don't ask for permission, you just say it. This is what's going down. And then the strategy for generators and manifesting generators is to respond. So I always love this analogy of treating the universe like your personal shopper. So the universe is your personal shopper and like brings you a pair of jeans. It's like, well, I don't quite like that fit. Maybe a different size, maybe a different color. Like, give me something else. And then you're always just like responding to that thing. And is it a yes or is it a no? Is it an uh-huh or is it an uh-uh? Like really sense like where your energy is being like pulled in or where it's being pushed back. And that like you get to define what's best for you and what's correct for you. Not everything that comes your way is something that you're meant to respond to. In the same way for projectors, not everything that I'm invited to is something I'm meant to say yes to. It's really about like tapping in to your body's wisdom, because across all types, the one key like similar thing that runs throughout is that nobody should be making decisions from our minds, which is exactly what we're taught to do. Make decisions from your mind, be logical, especially as women. There's just like so much shit that's tied up in like being too emotional, being nonsensical, being illogical. And then it just like and it's constantly pushing us in our minds where we're like, okay, what's the pros and cons? What makes the most sense? Like, I don't want to come across this way to so la 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 la. And we're like so disconnected from our bodies. Whereas all of your wisdom is inside of your body. That is where you receive clarity. So that leads me into your authority. So we each have our own unique authority. And your authority is just how your body communicates to you. So how you're here, I'll stop sharing this for a second and then I'll come back for the energy centers. But that gives you a view into what that looks like. So your authority is your unique way of how your body communicates you and where you can get clarity. So for example, most generators and manifesting generators have what's called a sacral authority, not all, but most of them have their sacral, which is the classic gut instinct, which is that like, it's in the moment. It wants what it wants. It's like really, really clear. It's like, this is what I want. And you can really start to like form a relationship with your authority. So if this is your authority, you can kind of play with this in asking yourself like yes, no questions or this or that questions. And that will trigger your authority so that you're like, okay, well, how do I get out of my head and into my body? For somebody with a sacral authority, that's how you do it. So you can tell a friend of yours, okay, instead of like, well, where do you want to go for dinner? Like, do you want pizza tonight? Do you want pizza or sushi? Like, then it becomes really, really clear. Like, what outfit do you want to wear? Like, play with that conversation in your closet, like, do I want to wear this today? Do I want to wear this or this? Not like, what do I want in my entire closet? Like really start to, and those are just like small, really like practical ways. But the more that you test it out, the stronger that connection with your sacral will be. And then when you're in the moment, you won't question it with your mind so much because we're so used to questioning our body and questioning our intuition and questioning the things that we don't see, and we don't question our minds. But what if we were to flip the script and every time your mind put a limit on you, or every time you told yourself that you're stuck or you don't know, or you have a limiting thought, what if you were to stop and be like, what if that's not true? Like, what if that's not the thing that I need to listen to? What does my body need right now? Like, how can you create that connection with yourself? And your authority is the first piece of that puzzle, really. Okay, so that's sacral. And then the other authority that, and this isn't just for manifesting generators and generators, this could be all types, except for reflectors, but could have the emotional authority. So if you're a generator or a manifesting generator who has the emotional authority, you still have that connection to your sacral because it is defined. But the thing with emotional authority is that you are always on these like emotional waves. And especially for men who have emotional authority, because men have always been conditioned to like not trust their emotions or to man up or to not cry, or like there's so much that's repressed there that can be like a really big disconnect for them. Like they could repress their emotions even more, because with emotional authority, those emotions can be really intense. There's like high highs, low lows. And the key to making decisions with that authority is to like wait for that like emotional neutrality. You never want to act spontaneously. So this operates like often I find two ways. One, you're like, oh yeah, I know I need time and I know I need to sit with things and let them simmer and at least sleep on it. Or the other thing, which is you've been told that you take too long and you should speed up. So you actually have like anxiety around your decisions and you feel pressure to do things. So it can go both ways. It's like you naturally honor it, or you're naturally like wanting to honor it, but feeling like you should do something else. So that's one reason why understanding your authority and really like integrating that can be so impactful. And then, does anybody know their authority? Like, let me know. Sometimes I'm just saying these things and I was like, I don't know, you've got this or you've got this. It's so nice when I can know who's like, what's what. Jen, you have emotional authority?
Yes. And sorry, I'm glad that you're asking because I had a comment about it, which is really interesting because mine is sacral. But what I realize is I think I've been making decisions based on how something feels, but not in my sacral. I feel like I've been making decisions on what feels good because I'm really good at feeling, but I feel like I'm using my emotions. So I guess I'm like feeling my heart. So I feel like probably I'm making emotions with my heart, but in that what I filled out, it says that I should be making decisions with my sacral, which is, I feel like, thank you. Like, I just feel like it's an aha moment for me of like, oh, that's why some of these decisions that I'm like, it felt so good. It was so good. And then like a couple weeks down the road, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, right? Like what just happened? It felt so good. How could something feel so good and then not sort of play out? Like, anyways, I could go on. I'm
So
like,
you
I trust
didn't
the
like
universe.
ride your wave, like your emotional wave.
Yeah, I heard, it's funny, I heard Melissa McCarthy say the other day that like she gets really excited about things and she just needs to tell herself to go around the block. And I was like, I need to walk around the block. Like I think I just need to practice that a little bit more, that I get really like, because I'm powerful and I'm a manifestor generator. I don't know enough about what that means, but I feel like what I want, I call in, it's easy, it's good. And I'm quick at it. But then I think I'm like, oh, but maybe I don't actually want that. Maybe I want something else. So
Right. And then do you know, like, if you have your head center open?
yeah, do you want me to show you mine? Because I did it while we were talking. I'll just
Okay,
tell you. Hold
that's
on. What does
fine.
that mean? What does it mean open
So
and not?
the symbol that's like right over top of the head in the chart, is it
Yes. So
is
it's
it
white.
white?
It's
Yeah.
white.
Okay.
Yes.
That's not
Yeah.
surprising. Okay. So because what's happening is that if you have that energy center open or white, you're just like inspired by everything. So you're like, that's amazing, and that's amazing, and that's amazing. And then you can get like paralyzed because you're like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm so inspired by everything. What action do I take? Or you can be like, that's so inspiring, I'm going with it, but it's not actually meant for you. You've skipped the step of pulling it into your body and then moving with discernment.
Yes.
Is it for
Courtney,
you, or is it just a nice thing?
yeah, thank you. Somebody, I think Sarah, sorry, Sarah, I don't know you, but you used that word and I was like, oh, that's a word I need. That's a word I need to use more often. Anyways,
Right. It's kind of like the squirrel moment, like
yeah,
squirrel, like that's so nice.
100%.
Yeah. And so this is the thing too, right? Is that it's not just like you have your authority, but then you have your other energy centers that really like they really come into play. And that's why it's so individualized. And so to be able to understand in the moment, like what's going on around, like, I feel this way and this is coming up, and you can be like, oh, well, that's happening because I have this pattern and I know that this pattern exists and it doesn't mean anything about me. It's just, it's in my energy. I know that that exists. So, okay, where do I want to go? Okay, there's a couple more authorities. Okay, one more. I'll say mine because that's very present for me. And if there's any other authorities that I have not covered, just let me know. But I have a splenic authority, which is intuition. It's like your spleen is one of your oldest energy centers. So it's like super old, never makes sense. And this was huge for me because everyone was like, trust your gut instinct. And like, I don't have that. So learning that I don't have that was like, okay, that makes sense to me. And I really had to like cultivate a deep relationship with my splenic authority because it does not repeat itself. And it's like a whisper. The energy is really like subtle in it. And so it was really easy for me to not trust it because often it's like nonsensical. And my husband is sacral authority, and he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, just trust my sacral, or trust my spleen. My spleen knows, my intuition knows. And then I can just do things that don't make sense. And it's fine. I can back it up because like I understand myself deeply. But before, I used to just question myself all the time. So the other thing that really comes into play with understanding your energy is understanding your energy centers and the patterns that live inside of them. So this part is huge. So I'll share my screen again so you can understand. Okay. So we have, this is like your crown. This is your source of inspiration. So, I mean, what I just previously said applies to me and like really resonates with me because you'll see even, and we won't cover all of this because it's just like, it can go really deep. Like these numbers that you see here are gates, and whether they're like colored or not means they're like activated or they're not, and they all mean different things. And there's 64 different gates in your human design. And if you're familiar with gene keys, there's also 64 gene keys. So those two systems kind of like work together. They're different, but they definitely all like enmesh together. but just like the broad overview of the energy centers. So mine is completely open. So it's just so much inspiration, which can lead, for me, my patterns are like I'm inspired by everything. What's my next step? I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. Anxiety, the head center is also like a pressure point, and so is the bottom energy center, the root. Both of those can cause a lot of pressure in the body. So it's like understanding what to do with them is really helpful. So then you have your ajna, which is like your ideas. So this part in me, for example, is defined. So in what I do with brand strategy and mapping out people's brands, and I do like branding, like the actual deliverables of brands. So it's really easy for me to like see something and just like visualize the whole picture. And it's because I have that energy center defined. It's in my energy to be able to kind of break down the steps and see it in that way. If you would have this undefined, it would be kind of like harder to make that connection, which is helpful because you're like, oh, this is an area where I need support in. And then the throat. So the throat, if you have this defined, generally you are a really good communicator. And if you have it undefined, it doesn't mean that you're not a good communicator, but it does mean that you would have patterns that show up around like, nobody's going to notice me. Like I'm going to talk, or I'm going to try and claim space, and like, I'm just going to be invisible, or no one's going to notice me. But the reality is that with an undefined throat, you're actually incredibly magnetic. So the opposite is true, but you can tell yourself a story and make it mean something about you that also just is not true. So manifestors, for example, all manifestors will have the defined throat, which is why it's like the leader, the ideas come through, and to be able to like speak it and speak powerfully. So really activating that like throat chakra is like super, super powerful. The G center, which like always, every time I say that, I think of something sexual, but whatever. But this is your place. It says here like love and direction, but this is really like your identity center. So if you were to have this defined, which would be colored in, then generally you've just always kind of known inherently who you are. For example, my husband has his defined, and he grew up like always knowing that he wanted to be a designer. Like he was just drawn towards this thing, and he knew that he wanted to do that or something like that. And he was just on that path and always so clear around who he was. Whereas mine is undefined. So my identity is actually fluid. And so I spent so much of my life being like, who am I? What is my purpose? Like, what am I doing? Which is just such a classic undefined G center thing. That's a pattern that lives in there. But the gift in that is my ability to kind of like be a chameleon. I can really understand all types of different people. And those people will be like, oh my gosh, we have so much in common, because I get people in that way. My identity is not fixed. So I can like become, not like be a different person, but it's like these different like versions of me that are all me. They're really getting to like play with that. While also understanding that because I have this energy center undefined, my environment is huge for me. So I think it was a couple of years ago, I was like, I need to get away from my children. I need to go get an Airbnb, stay there, and I want it to look adorable. And my husband, with his like defined center, was like, who cares what it looks like? Like, just like get the cheapest place. And I was like, no. My environment is everything. So I'm getting the place where like it's going to be a vibe. And so like I just need to create these vibes in my environment. And also if there's an environment that's not good for me, to be able to identify that and be like, I'm out, because it affects my energy so much. Okay. Breathe. Yeah, it is a chameleon. Sounds like definitely that chameleon energy. Okay. And the spleen I already touched on, which is like your instinct, your intuition. And then also like if you were to look up your gates within this center too, that's where a lot of your fear will rise up. So if you were to research this more, like you would definitely resonate with like the fears that come up for you. So the cool thing about this is that like as you're going through your chart, you're just deepening your awareness of who you are. And when you understand who you are on a deeper level, you understand that you are not your fear. Your fear, then like the charge over it is diffused. It's not as activating because you're like, oh, I'm not scared of this thing because I suck. This is a pattern of mine. And now that I have a different awareness around it, then it doesn't have the power. I have the power and I can move differently. I can choose a different experience. And then I become the creator of my life who's like actually conducting the orchestra. I'm not just like waiting for things to happen to me. I'm claiming it and I'm owning my authentic power. So that's where it becomes like, that's the part that really, really excites me, because I think all of us are kind of in this world. And it was so nice to hear from everybody and like what you're known for and just how beautiful all of you are, and these hearts that are just absolute gold. And like the more you walk through your journey and your evolution, you're unlocking more and more of your potential. And then when you claim your power and own your potential, you're unstoppable. You can manifest anything that you want, anything that you desire, because you are that powerful. And you get to understand that by one, like just knowing it inherently, like I'm worthy and I own that. And also to use these tools to be like, okay, so I can lean in here and this part of myself. So for example, me being a projector, me having that splenic authority, my like intuition and ability to see things the way that I can see them. For me, I was like, can't everyone do that the way that I do? Like I minimized the power that I have. And I just thought that it was like normal. And I think we're all intuitive beings, but there's definitely a gift there where I wasn't seeing the gift. And then in turn, I would be like, oh, I just wish I was more like that person over there. Like I just think about high school me and I'm like, oh, baby Allie, if only you knew, if only you had this knowledge, you know what I mean? Like you would just love yourself so much sooner in your life. But it's like, you no longer want your superpowers to be something different. You realize you have these superpowers and this innate genius that's lived inside of you your entire life, and you just weren't even seeing it for yourself. And especially if you run a business and run an online business, the thing that I know around what it takes to grow and scale your business is that the more you see yourself, the more other people are going to see you. And the more clients are going to be magnetized towards you because you see you deeply, you honor you deeply. And like, that is magnetism. Anyway, tangent. Okay. Then you have your sacral authority or sacral energy center, which I already touched on. So it's like, if you don't have your sacral defined, you will burn out. Don't do that. And if you have your sacral defined, you can, like, if you're lit up about something, you're like, I want to not go to sleep and I'm not going to prioritize sleep tonight because I'm so lit up by this thing I want to get done, then like, you don't have to, you can keep going. You don't have to limit yourself. But the key is really, again, saying yes to the things that are actually yeses. So what will cause you to say yes to things that are no's will often live in your heart center, especially if you have your heart center open or undefined. And that like undefined heart center, there's like this pattern that lives there around worthiness and not being enough and people pleasing, or like feeling like your worth is tied to your productivity and how much you do. So it's like, I'm saying yes because I really want this person to like me. I want them to know like how nice I am. I want them to know that like I'm good at what I do. So I'm gonna like do. But then you feel underappreciated. You feel like you're never like quite enough. You feel like that you're always on this hamster wheel of like having to prove yourself. So the mantra for an undefined heart is really like, I'm worthy just because I am, just because I'm born and I exist here. So yeah, really understanding that I find the undefined heart and the undefined solar plexus are two of like that's like a lifelong journey of work in itself. There's just so much good like juiciness that's there for us. Goddamn cheetah. Okay, yeah. So who said that? Yeah. So I have a completely open speed, no gates or anything. So does that mean I absorb other people's fears? Oh, I accidentally muted myself. Yes, you can definitely absorb other people's fears. So you might notice around certain people you feel a different way, and then around other people you feel another way. And that's why it's so important. So even with the spleen, yes, but especially I find like the solar plexus, having that undefined, it's like classic empath, but it's like you're taking on other people's emotions and you're not designed to take on their emotions. And if you were to have this defined, you're on your own emotional wave, but everybody around you who has the undefined center is not only absorbing your shit, but like amplifying it back to you. So they are direct mirror to your experience. And with this undefined, it's really important to have energetic practices in place to be able to support yourself. So some kind of like energetic release is so key. So when I first discovered human design, like I said, I was at home with 2 kids, trying to build a business, doing all of the things. My anxiety levels were through the roof. So I was doing my energy release. And because my symptoms were like so intense at that time, I would literally every day, whether I felt like I needed it or not, would scream into my hand just to release the energy that was inside of me. Or like I'd punch pillows and just like give her. And it felt like my energy felt so different after doing that. And then I incorporate more like, I mean, I still do that if I'm being honest, but I also incorporate more gentle practices around like meditation. If you've heard of cord cutting and different things like that, can be hugely supportive. And then the last one is really your root. So if you have this undefined, then you're going to feel a lot of pressure. Like you're going to be like, ooh, I feel pressure. So I'm going to do to relieve this pressure. Then it doesn't ever go away. You just like keep doing it. So really the key with this is like movement. So this was huge for me. It's like when I discovered human design, I changed my relationship with everything around me because I no longer saw working out as like a way to hit a certain goal or look a certain way. It was like, I'm doing this because of how it affects my energy, because I need to like release the stagnant energy of all the stuff that I'm absorbing. And we're absorbing energy all of the time. And if you're not protecting yourself, and then you're wondering why you feel like anxious or overwhelmed or like not like yourself or a bit crazy or whatever, it's because you're holding on to energy that your body is literally not designed to hold on to. What did I say? I don't know what I said about life's work. Oh, the energy centers. Okay. So I said the heart center and the emotional center, those two feel to me like the biggest energy centers that are like a lifelong journey. Like it's like everyone's life's work to kind of come into coherence with those energy centers. And all of these things too, whether you have them defined or whether you have them undefined, you can kind of, everything operates in like high frequencies and low frequencies. So it's really like the more you understand what yours is and how they operate, you can kind of raise the frequency within your energy centers just by placing your awareness on it differently, And then again, everything all leads back to like, how are you claiming your power? Where are you playing small because you're telling yourself a story, or your identity is like wrapped up in a certain thing that's not actually real, that's not actually true, but your mind is doing a really good job at keeping you safe. So it's like, I'm scared of being seen because then I'll be judged. It's like, so then you play small in your business, you play small in your life, because that's your mind keeping you safe. And it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. But ultimately, you've like siphoned your power away. So that's kind of my relationship with human design. In like, I don't use human design as a rule, but I definitely use it as a way to be like, oh, okay, I'm like sucked into a pattern right now. And I have the awareness, so I can pull myself out of it faster, so I can go do the things that I'm actually meant here to do. And then I get to unlock and unravel more of my potential, which is just like the most fascinating thing to me. Okay, I covered a lot. I apologize if this was so overwhelming. Sometimes it's so difficult when it's like how broad the conversation could be, because again, it is like so individualized. But I think like the main thing is really like, more than your type, understanding your energy centers and understanding your patterns is like it just blows your mind. And then the most beautiful thing that I've discovered after, when I learned about human design in 2018, I didn't integrate it into my business for at least a year. And then I was like, ooh, I need to bring this to my clients because it's so impactful. And since then have read so many human design charts. And it's like, every time I read someone's human design chart, I'm just like, do you know how powerful you are? Like, do you know what lives inside of you? And like, I see it so clearly. And it's so beautiful when I get to like see that click for everybody, that like, oh yeah, I see it now. Like, I just need to be me. And with human design, I won't ever tell you anything that you don't already know about yourself, but it's like just highlighting it. You're like, oh, right. That's why that feels so good. That's why I want to do that. I'm not supposed to do things that way. I'm supposed to do things my way. And then like life just gets better and better from there. Oh, Jamie, you're a manifestor too. All right. I'll open it up for questions. If that feels good.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, either write them in the chat or you can go ahead and unmute yourself. That was so fascinating. There are so many juicy, goody things I feel like we could just dive into for hours and hours and hours. I just love it. I know everyone's just been blowing up the chat with how much they've been loving this. So thank you for that. Jamie has a question. Yeah.
Well, I thought I was a manifesting generator, but I found out just now that I'm a generator, and I feel really disappointed.
Oh, that's so interesting.
I do, because I realize, because you said, what's the percentage? The majority of us are generators?
Yes, so 70. Well, manifesting generators, like the generator type, 70%.
Okay, I see. Well, I still feel disappointed. I feel like I'm boring. I wanted to be something really unique, but
oh my gosh. Okay, this is so beautiful, because this is the thing too, where it's like we learn about our human design and you're like, oh, like I wanted to be like the unicorn, but it's like without generators and manifesting generators, like the world would not get anywhere. Like we would literally not go anywhere. And there's so many times, because the other three types are non-energy types. So I guarantee that everybody who is like a non-energy type has looked at generators and manifesting generators and been like, let's get a little bit of that sacral energy, like please.
Oh, well, thank you.
It's just so powerful.
Well, I feel less disappointed now, so thank you.
My work here is done. No, that's good.
Oh, so funny. Yeah.
I just think that it's so fascinating. And, Allie kind of shared it with me when we were at a retreat together. And I think, being a Reiki practitioner, like for me, it was like, oh my God, there's more. And I feel the same way when someone's on the table, where I just get like excited about how freaking powerful they are and how everything interconnects. And then the awareness of this, it just feels so much bigger and more exciting too. So what I wanted to ask while you're in front of everybody is, I know that this is not the primary function of your business, but like, I would love to come and have you explain, like show me and have me understand like more of this, right? So yeah, so tell us how we can do that maybe later at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Journey and I were having the conversation earlier over like things that I might want to say, or places where to potentially like invite you ladies if you want to explore more. And human design readings are not generally something that I do, but I do have human design readings if you want to hop into something like that. And then the other part of my business that I do, which is like my main thing that I do in my business, is really around brand strategy and branding, and how to really like build and create a powerful brand online. And how I do, the one piece of how I do that is understanding you so deeply. And how I understand you so deeply is to be able to have a conversation with your human design and around like your vision and what you're here to do in the world, and to really weave that into your brand, so that when you show up in your business, you're like, ooh, this feels like me. It doesn't feel like I'm trying to fit into this box of a good business owner, or fit into this brand that like I think other people are going to like. It's like, how do you become the fullest expression of you? So we get to like tie in human design and then weave it into your brand and your business, which is just like your life's purpose, honestly. So yeah. So in terms of that, we have like the human design readings if someone's interested in that. And then I also have my signature offer, which is called the Revival. And that is the rebranding. If anyone is like at a place where you're like, ooh, I really want to go all in my business and my brand, that's a fabulous place to land as well.
So awesome.
Allie or Journey, can I say something?
Absolutely.
Allie, that was so like mind blowing. There was so much information there. I was just like, oh my God, I can't even like I can wrap my head around it, but there's just so much and like really great stuff. I agree with Jen. Like it would be so, I want to learn more about this. Like now that I have like this much, I'm like everything
like,
that you were
what
saying
else?
about like the manifesting generator, I'm like, I was like, what? That's me. Right? In so
Yeah.
many things. So like I have lots to learn. I'm very intrigued. I did my generator test today because I did a program with Anna and she had asked what our human design was. I was like, I don't know. So she gave us a link and I tried it and it came up, but I didn't know what, like all the things that you're going through, like the heart and like, I don't know, the head and the root and then like, I do have actually one question. When it's colored or not colored, what are those two
So whether it's like defined, which is colored, and undefined, uncolored or white. And when it's defined, it's like your own consistent energy that's within you. So you generate that. And then if it's undefined, then you're absorbing from your environment. So for example, I have my undefined sacral. My husband has his defined sacral. We both work from home and I love working next to him because I feel like I absorb his sacral energy and it gives me more energy to like be more productive and get more done. So it's like, and collaborating with generators and manifesting generators, I love that because I just like feel that energy and it fuels me. I just have to be careful of being like, ooh, but that's not mine. So I need to like decompress and do my thing and take care of my energy. But that's where it's like you can use your undefined centers as gifts rather than the undefined center of like, well, I don't have a defined sacral, for example. So I burn out all the time and I don't have enough energy and I don't get as much done. You know, there's like, are you being the creator and the leader in your life? Or are you being the victim of your life? That's like where we get to cross over.
So interesting. It just like seriously, I'm just sitting here still like I wish I knew this sooner, and I'm actually glad, like, sooner, like, whatever. I'm learning it now, so that's the most important thing. And and I just think I'd be really intrigued to maybe, I don't know, like what Jen said, like if there was something to help on that part. I feel like I'd be so interested to learn more about myself and like authentically like just go with this and like, you know what I mean? Like just I can't verbalize it, but just go with this just human design and then see how that can affect and help with my business afterwards. Like I would really like to dig more into this to understand me better, because I feel like I can just be so scatterbrained and like just all over the place.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah. And like that's the thing around it being like the fullest, like your business gets to be you as the fullest expression of you. So often in business, it's like, well, show up this way and do this strategy. And like, this is how you build success. And like, here's all the things on your to-do list. But then we're completely taking out the human experience. Like you as a business owner are a human. Like, how are you taking care of yourself and nurturing yourself? Because it all feeds into your business. So when you like understand these pieces, you do show up in your business differently because you can't not,
Yeah. So cool. Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Chloe had a question in the chat.
I know. What does she mean by tubes? All the tubes are undefined. Do you mean the channels? The like connecting to the other energy centers? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's kind of like, okay, so for example, the channels, it's how the energy is like really flowing. So there's and it's so hard to say like specifically because this is like gonna go like real deep down the human design rabbit hole. But it's like in the same way that if your gates are undefined or defined, it's like if your gates, so to make a channel, both of those gates have to be defined and then it makes the channel. So for example, my gate's like 26 to 44, that makes the channel and it connects. So that channel is kind of known as like the entrepreneurial channel. It's like the people with that channel are generally really good at selling and storytelling and how they communicate. So it's like every channel means something different. And if it's like not, even if it's not connected, that doesn't necessarily like mean that that's bad. It's just like how the energy is flowing differently. So it would mean that like maybe, yeah, either like all of your gates are also undefined. I would have to know by seeing your chart. I mean, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know if like, because sometimes you can have like a part of a channel. Yeah, that's the piece that's like getting like really, really specific. And I don't want to like add to any other sense of overwhelm, but there's so many more interesting things. And even like if you have kids, being able to understand my kids and understand their human design has been so impactful for me, because my daughter is a manifestor and my son is a generator, and they are so wildly different. So one strategy that works for my one kid will not work for my other kid. And it doesn't mean that I'm favoring one over the other. It's like they need different approaches. And at the end of the day, like they are their own sovereign beings, and I'm just here to support them. And if I can nurture them and their highest good and nurture their energy and like the ways that they want to like naturally show up, because they come into this world and they're like, I am who I am. And then we go and do all of our conditioning and project all of our shit on them. So I'm like, if I could just lessen that so that they just are the fullest expression of who they are and they get to hold on to that forever, like that's the goal anyway. I'll mess it up somewhere along the line, but it's been fascinating to learn and like see how they respond to it. Good books to read. Okay, so who is the author? Yeah, if you go to Amazon and look up, I think, let's see. There's one book that I'm thinking of and I just can't remember the name.
You haven't written one yet, Allie? That's your next
I know, right?
on the list.
I keep saying I'm gonna do like an intro course to human design. I just haven't done it. How do I know what time I was born? If I don't know it, yeah. Ask your mom. Step number 1. Step number 2, I think it could be on your birth certificate or like contacting the hospital that you were born in. So knowing the exact birth time is important. The more accurate you can be, because it can. So sometimes what I can see is that it can alter like really deep things in your human design. And like I said, even if you understood like the core basics and integrated like just your authority, even just your authority, then that can wildly change your life. So sometimes the time can shift like gates or the channels or like things like that that you might never really care to dive into. But yeah, even sometimes the minutes, things can be off. Yeah. So you want to be as accurate as possible. And you can do some testing too if you don't know to kind of see what changes, but that's that. So the book is called Human Design, Discover the Person You Were Born to Be by Shatan Parkin. That is like a really great intro book.
And the minutes count, right? For the time you're born, the actual to the minute, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So like the most accurate information is ideal. And like if you're not sure of the minutes, like again, you can kind of like play around with it. I'll share my screen so you can see what the book looks like, because I feel like I'm a visual learner and maybe it'll help you. This is like a good intro book. Yeah, Human Design, Discover the Person You Were Born to Be. Yeah. And you can definitely go down the rabbit hole of human design and like Google and listen to all the podcasts. Human design definitely has blown up in the past few years. But I always think that it is beneficial to like get a personalized reading, because then you're just, it's just like, so if you and I, for example, were to have a reading, you would come to a session and I'd be like, what's currently going on in your life? Like what feels like stuck right now? What feels like a struggle right now? And then we can talk about your patterns and how your human design comes into play, instead of this like overview of, well, you're a generator and this is where generators thrive and this is what you need to do. It's like so broad and it's not applicable right now. But right now, if you're desiring a breakthrough and a transformation, then like being able to like really get in, I mean, that's where the breakthroughs really happen, where you're like, ooh, this is what's happening. And now this is what I need to integrate. I'm going to go and do that thing, rather than spending so bad. But I mean, there's also so much value in just, if you want to, read, if you want to get off this call and then go and Google all night long, feel free.
The human design rabbit holes. I mean, there's crazier rabbit holes you could get into.
Right? I mean, this one's a good one to do, but it's definitely like feels endless. That's for sure.
So many layers of self-discovery, right? And so many opportunities to just get to know ourselves more in order to grow and be bolder and do more with our passions. And I love the way you described this. I think Jen, someone said, yeah, your beautiful language. I agree. Just the way that you describe it, the way you make it so relatable. A lot of us feel like we could just listen to you all day. So thank you so much. Does anyone have, yes, Kaylee has a question. I was going to ask if there's anyone else who has a question. Kaylee, go ahead and unmute. Yeah.
I do have a quick question. Allie, thank you so much. That was really, really informative. And I feel like I've had a really broad understanding of human design for a long time, but that was so much more of a deep dive. So I really appreciate all the information. My question is that I am a manifester, and I do really identify as a manifester. Like I ran a business for 8.5 years, and I worked really, really hard, and I ran myself into the ground. And like, so it was a midwifery business, and I feel like the midwifery piece at the time in my life was super like on point and was right. But then there was other pieces that, like you said, like I was just, my energy was getting sucked into doing all these other things that weren't like appropriate for my energy, and that's where I got really burnt out.
Mhm.
And so I've shifted gears. I'm now offering pregnancy, breastfeeding, new motherhood, like related support. And a lot of it is breastfeeding related and related to new motherhood. But I'm just, I'm getting sucked in again. I'm feeling like as I am running a new business, I'm starting to get sucked into like all the different things, like, as you were talking at the very beginning. So I guess to sum up my question, how did you get to that point where you were a mom of 2 kids, which is where I'm at, running a business, online and doing all the things, and just feeling like getting a little bit more clear on where it was an effective use of your energy versus like where it was going to like drain your energy right out?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I think the first thing right off the bat to highlight is that like this gets to all be an experiment and it will never be perfect. So even me along my entrepreneurial journey, it's like I remember this time last year and I was like, I have never felt so alive in my business. I've never felt so on purpose in my business. And then things came into my awareness where I was like, oh, wow, I've really stretched myself too thin. I'm really doing way too much, which is even though I can do it, and even though I am good at it, and even though I can make money doing it, I'm not meant to. And it's taking away from my genius. So I had to really identify like, what are the things that I'm doing just because it's easy or just because I'm good at it, but it doesn't actually fuel me. Like it feels like an energy leak. So I think it's really important to like identify where your energy leaks are, and right? Like you can feel into like when I do this, it feels like this. And when I'm leaning into what lights me up, like how my energy operates is different. So for me, like there's a lot of ways that I've had to pivot a lot in business because I've always prioritized my highest alignment. And the pivot and moving deeper into alignment is not always comfortable. So it's kind of identifying like, all right, I'm going to go here and I'm going to get rid of like these aspects of my offerings, which feels scary, but it's ultimately the right thing. Because when you're in alignment with your genius, the thing that you're meant to do, like you will make a lot of money, right? Like it's just like a byproduct of you being in alignment with your genius and doing the thing that you're meant to do. So when you can get rid of the energy leaks and things that you don't like doing, and if there's things that have to be done, so if you're like, oh, I have all these admin tasks, then if you can outsource them. But I use a lot of different kind of like energy hacks. I'm like super into biohacking. So definitely like I track my menstrual cycle. So I know at what points during the month I'm higher energy and lower energy. So I can prioritize like, when am I going to do admin versus when am I going to be more creative? And when am I going to take time off of work because I know like I can bank that I'll be in like a lower energy and I'll need more time inward. So how can I schedule my business so that my business works for me, not the other way around, right? So if it's like your life is getting in the way of your business, then you need to adjust things in your business because it's not working and it's not sustainable. So there's like, yeah, definitely like my menstrual cycle. What am I getting rid of? What am I unavailable for? So it's like where are my boundaries leaky, where I'm just like not available to operate like that. So if I'm projecting out in business for where I want to go and what I'm creating, well, am I being the woman who holds that? Am I being the CEO who's running this business, who's doing these things? Or am I still like, am I not an energetic match for what I'm really wanting to do? Because the line of work that you're in, it's like you're doing that because it lights you up. So where are the places where you can refine? And I think when you like dive into that, then the answers will kind of like unearth themselves. Does that make sense? How's that landing?
Yes, totally. Thank you. And I guess where I'm running into a little bit of opposition, and sorry, Jen, I'll shut up in a second, but it's just like this desire to really be bootstrapping my business right now versus like where I can, where I'm running into a place where I'm just doing everything. And also my family needs are really high right now, and I just have to be realistic about that. And and I gotta cook and clean and take care of these kids sometimes. So, that's the reality of right now. So I guess, I'm trying to figure out more like family hacks right now.
Yeah, for
I'm all
sure.
ears if anyone has any.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that there was definitely a season in my life and in my business where I had to get real about the season of life that I was in. So when my kids were really young, I was like, do I really want to be spending my time growing and scaling my business right now? My first priority is actually like my kids and being with my kids right now. So it's like, I know with deep certainty that I'm going to run a really successful business and I'm going to make this amount of money and I'm going to whatever. And I don't need to be in control of when it happens. I just need to prioritize what I want to prioritize. And business is not always number one. Often for us, it's not number one. It's number two, it's number three, sometimes it's number five. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The other thing, two things, especially with young kids. One was that I didn't need to like wait for time alone to do things for myself. My kids could see me doing things for myself, and like my energetic release practices and like stuff like that, I can do with my kids and they can be witness to that. And that's actually really empowering for them. Whereas I used to be like, well, I need all this time to like wind down or like do this or do these things that I wanted to do. That was a story that I was telling myself that wasn't true. And then to really change how I related to the word selfish. And I was like, if the idea of being the selfless woman is so like up there, like we put the selfless woman on a pedestal. It's like, but why would I want to be less of myself? What if I get to be selfish? What if I get to put my needs first? And what if that means that everybody else wins too? And that changed everything for me. Ooh, someone said a house cleaner. Yes. I did that for the first time last year. I was like, why? Why have I been cleaning my toilets?
Yes, to a house cleaner. Was that helpful, Kaylee? All right. I am going to bring everyone on screen and let's just give a lot of love for Allie with our hands. Thank you so much for being on here. Thank you for pouring so much love, so much wisdom, so many gold nuggets that we can really absorb and now take into our lives, and probably just got the conversation just as starting, right? We're going to all go down the beautiful rabbit hole of human design. It's just always so powerful to have more layers of self-discovery. So thank you for being on and just sharing all of your wisdom. And I can tell there's so much more. So we'll have to have you back another time. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, Instagram is probably the best place. That's where I love to play the most. So yeah, it's just at Allie Tymo. So, I mean, yeah, my name's right there. So, and it's really, that's where you can find me everywhere. So I keep it simple.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the recording.